Hey beauties, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be going over all three of the new Huda Beauty Brown Obsessions palettes. Before I get into them, I am going to just quickly let anybody who doesn't know what's going on, very quickly, not getting into it. Basically, long story short, I tried to open up a box and I opened up my hand instead, cut myself across here. I'm stitched up, but we're good to go. I just gotta be careful with it. Anywho, I have a look using each of these palettes. I'm gonna show you guys some comparisons and of course swatches and my opinion on them. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. All three of the palettes have a really beautiful tortoise shell outer appearance to them, and of course they do also have mirrors. This one right here is a little bit lighter, and then the lightest one with a little bit of a yellow hint to it is the Toffee one. And there is a new formula. So before I show you these, I want to read just a small description off of the Huda Beauty website. It reads, velvety smooth powders, intense metallics, buttery marble cream shimmers, which we have seen before. I love those. And then an irresistible new pearl flake texture that can give you a creative freedom to playfully shade, highlight, and define the eyes. So when I was playing with these, I noticed, I was like, some of these feel a little different, maybe a little drier. And that would explain why. Again, I never read these things beforehand. All right, I'm gonna go through, show you guys the palettes and the swatches. Starting off with Toffee Brown. This is the one that I am currently wearing right now. Let me just do it like this, it'll be easier. This one has more of like a yellowy vibe to it, which I really, really like. It's just pretty. I like this tone of yellow. It's not too bright, it's not too dull. It's right in between. And then I think that this formula right here is the new pearl one, because I found that this one had like little glitters in there. And it was just, the texture was definitely different, but we'll get into all of that. Let me go ahead and show you guys the swatches of Toffee Brown. This palette is described as a silky smooth blend of caramel, buttercream, and golden toffee mattes paired with shimmering honey and sugared almond metallics. And then we have Caramel Brown. See, open this up. This one's a little bit deeper, definitely has more of that coppery aesthetic to it, a little bit more orange in here and gold. And again, swatches. Add a little fire to your look with this spicy combination of burnt caramel, hazelnut, and maple mattes accompanied by molten copper, apricot, and rhubarb shimmers. Last but not least, Chocolate Brown. This one gives me the feels. I like the little bit of rosiness in it as well as the browns. It's just really, really pretty. This one reads, a modern edit of milk and dark chocolate mattes blended with decadent fudge metallic sprinkles of brown sugar and berry shimmers. Each of these palettes retail for $29, and in case you are wondering, just like the other Obsessions palettes, these are made in China. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get into the tutorials. I'm going to do the first two looks before I get into the one that I am wearing right now. I'm going to start off with Chocolate Brown, going in with the very first shade on a Zoeva 227. I'm going to start off directly, ooh, that's pigmented, directly into my crease. It was more pigmented than I had anticipated. And I am going to have to buff a little bit more because, again, yeah, I wasn't anticipating that. So I'm going to buff upward to use as my transition. Might take one of the lighter shades and go around. But the good news is that it is blending out well. The thing I'm concerned about are some of these shimmers. Just like with the Too Faced Teddy Bear palette, this one has it's like those semi-marbled shades and then the non-marbled metallics. And the marbled ones feel a little creamier, and the non-marbled ones, I don't know. We'll see how they go on the eye. That blended out, I mean, that from how much pigment I had in that one little spot, it blended out really fairly effortlessly. I'm going to use the same brush and I'm going to go in with the middle row last shade, trying not to pick up as much pigmentation. But it's still pigmented. It is definitely still pigmented. So first impression on the mattes are good. And I like that this palette is actually leaning, at least from far away, because I don't have the best vision. I close up. I can see better close up. But this looks a little bit more brown than a lot of her typical palettes that are more maroon. I can see maroon in the first shade, but adding in this one definitely gives it more of that chocolatey vibe. I'm going in circular motions just so that I get a nice blend. I'm going all the way from inner to outer corner. I'm going to go in with the Nakia Joy E05 Firm Blend and the first shade in the last row. I'm not going in with too much. I'm going to go right here and then excess right around the edge because I just want to soften it up just a little bit. I don't mind it being high, I just don't want like high up, but I just don't want it to be too dark. Going back in with a 227, add a little bit in on this outer corner. Very last shade in the palette on a rougher number 14. I am going to place this on the outer corner. Okay, so far these mattes are working really well. I'm trying to decide if I want to smoke this upward or leave it down. I don't know. And just so you guys know, I do not have my eye set. So I have my primer on. I used the By Mario palette in the shade Light. I'm lightly going to take this up, just very lightly on the outer corner. Rougher number 2, last shade, first row. This is one of the marbleized shades. I'm basically going to go right around where I did with that last one, that last color. Middle shade in the top row on a rougher 21. This is not a marbleized shade. Let's see how this goes. I think I'm going to pack this one on just a little bit more. First shade in the second row, same brush, I just wiped it off. This is a marbleized shade, and see, I just think that goes on a little bit easier. I'm going to have to do some mixing, like blending of the shades together. But definitely this is more intense, easier to go on. I'm not going to have to build this up. I'm going back in with that rougher 14 and no additional product, but because the lower lid is so dark, I just want to take this, which is the matte shade we used, and I just want to lightly get this into the crease so I don't have a really defined lid. First shade on a rougher number 3. I'm going to pop that right underneath the lower lash line. Middle shade on an Esum W21. You know I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting. You know, I just have to. And then I want to see what the middle shade in the bottom row will do dry. The Lunar Beauty E7. It's not terrible, but I am going to try it wet. Much better. And then I'm going to go add on liner and mascara, and we will move on to the other eye. For For the next look, we're using a caramel brown. Middle shade in the bottom row on a Tom Ford number 13. My apologies, I thought I was filming and I was not. I did not hit record. But I'm just taking this into the crease, and I picked up a little bit less product than I did initially on this side because, I mean, the mattes seem to be pretty good. And so I wanted to go in a little lighter handed, and so this is a second layer right here, a second light layer, and it seems to be working really well. I'm going to take the same brush and I'm going to use the third shade in the top row. Again, I'm not picking up much. And yeah, these are blending really nicely. And now I'm going to go in with the middle shade in the top row, which is a metallic. And this is an EO3 DM from Bristles Beauty. I am just taking this back and forth, windshield wiper motions. I'm not going to lie, I did not have high hopes for these palettes. And granted, I'm not done yet, but I'm not disappointed so far. I want to add a sheen to the crease instead of it being just like straight up matte and then shimmer. And I want to use this shade. I wanted to check it out, but I didn't want to use it as a primary shade on my lid. I wiped off any excess off of my brush. And now I'm using tiny circular motions to kind of blend that out just a little bit. Blending upward. Refer 14, last shade in the middle row. I am going to go ahead and place this down because I don't want it to be too prominent, but I do want to add in the depth before I go in with the lighter shades. And this is one of those, it's like a metallic, but it's not going to have a lot of shine to it. But it's going on well with a blending brush, so that's a positive. Wiping off the excess from my brush. I'm just doing that on my Sonia G little towel. I'm blending upward just on this outer corner. That's starting to look a little patchy, so I'm going to go back in, add a little bit more. And I'm going to take that metallic orange, just go right around the edge of that. That's much better. Much better. Nakia Joy EO7 flat shader. I'm going to go in with the first shade in the last row. This has been screaming my name. I've just been looking at it like, oh, I want to use that. But see, I'm going to put it right over top of the edge of that darker shade and blend them together. So it gives the depth without it being so dark. Again, getting some fallout, no big deal, and I am building this up just a little bit. Dust that away. Refer 21, very first shade in the palette. Pop this on the inner corner and drag it over the last shade I laid down. Middle shade on a PO6 RF from Bristles Beauty. First, I'm trying this out dry. Not getting too much. I'm going to go in with it wet. Much better wet. First shade, middle row on a Refer 26. I'm going to take that all along the lower lash line. I like that color a lot. Refer P21, last shade in the palette. I'm going to place this closer to lash line, but I'm going to keep it 3/4 of the way in. I'm not going to bring it all the way to the inner corner. And then with a Stilazzi color blend, I'm going to see if I can just go right around the edge of this and just soften up the blend. There's not really a lighter shade in this palette that I can use, so I'm just using a clean brush instead. So this is an option. And then I will add on MAC Blanc type just because that's my preference, but I want to show you that you can soften it with just a denser, clean brush. Tiny bit of MAC Blanc type. Any bone color shadow you like. You could even use your powder for your face. I'm just blending right around the edge, and then I'm going to go add on liner and mascara. Now I'm going to show you guys the look that I'm wearing right now using the Toffee Brown palette. First shade on our Rephr number 1. I'm going to place this first on the outer corner, outer lid, the whole outer lid. I'm using a larger brush, but I like for the pigment to start lower and then blend upward, which is exactly what I'm going to do. And my eyeshadow, I don't know if I mentioned it in the first two eyes, but I have not set my primer except for underneath my brow arch. Just working this up. I'm going to use it as a transition shade. I want it to peek out through the other colors. And I'm going to bring it about 3/4 of the way in, but I'm also going to be taking the yellow and putting it on the inner corner, so I don't want to take it too far. I'm taking that same shade on a Bristles Beauty EO5 PS, and I'm running it right along the lower lash line. Nakia Joy EO6 Precision Blend. I'm going to take the yellow middle shade, and I am going to place this on the front portion. And I will be taking the excess and going right around the edge of the lashed shade. And building it up just a little bit. Back in with the Rephr number 1, third shade, first row. I am going to deepen up this outer corner of my whole lid. I'm going to be bringing it into the crease. I'm going to take that same shade again on my Bristles Beauty pencil brush, and I'm going to put this right up against the lower lashes. Rephr number 28, second shade in the palette, and I am getting quite a bit of product on my brush. I noticed that this palette was a little bit drier than the others, and getting more product on my brush and then like pressing it into my skin definitely helps, or like my lid. Now I'm going to go in the middle row lash shade with a Bristles Beauty EO3 DM. I'm going to go right on the front portion, right where that yellow is, and lightly into the crease. Just want to add a little bit of this sheen before I add in the lighter yellow on the lid right here. Second shade in the last row, Rephr 21. Placing this on the front. And again, I want to mention I'm loading up my brush. I'm not just dipping in there. First shade in the middle row on our Rephr 21. This shade is quite a bit dry. Like, you either got to use your finger, and I was trying to pick up color with this brush, and it's just, this shade I would say is the driest in the palette. I'm going to use the very last shade on a Bristles Beauty PO6 RF to highlight the inner corner a little bit. Putting it down and then just blending it out a little bit. Rephr number 3, first shade, last row. And this will be the final touch before I go in and add on liner and mascara. I finished off all of the looks with inner rim liner and mascara. Now let me get into my thoughts, and I'll show you guys some comparisons as well. So for the first one, chocolate. It's my favorite. I like it the most, and I accidentally closed it. Ah! I was trying to keep all of these open, and then I did myself a little disservice. Okay, I got it. This one I think is so, so beautiful. I really like it. Just looks a little bit more romantic and sultry at the same time. The mattes are really great. I had no issues with the mattes. With all of the palettes though, I did have fallout. I am somebody who does not tap off the brush. I like to just go in and blend things out, and that's what I did with these, and they blended out very, very effortlessly. I like the looks that I got. I will say that the shimmers, they are not as good as what I think that the best obsessions are the nude obsessions. These are kind of similar to what I was trying to say with the teddy bear palette from Too Faced. Like, some of them are a little bit more creamy while some of them are a little drier, and that could be the new formula. I'm not sure. I think that this one is, if I was going to say just get one, this is the one that I would suggest. However, it is also the closest to other things that you have if you have a whole Huda Beauty collection like I do. I do think that this is the closest. However, it does still have that brown aspect to it, which I really, really like. And I think that as long as you're okay with either packing on the shimmers using your finger or even going in with them wet if you want more intensity, then you can definitely get there. That's all I did, was just go in and add more and just pack them on a little bit more densely to get that effect. But then you can also use them and have them sheer out a little bit, which can be nice because not everybody wants as much shimmer as I do. I appreciate different formulas, but with Huda Beauty, my expectation is to have more intensity, so that's why I mention it. But this one is definitely the favorite out of the bunch. Okay, I'm gonna try and get these up side by side. I think that if you have the Naughty Nude, by the way, this shade used to be Slippery. This is now Sydney Grace. Oh my gosh, I forgot the name of it, but it's a Sydney Grace shade. Morning Star, that's it. Here they are side by side, so you can see there are some subtle differences there, but I think that if you have the Naughty palette, you don't really need this one, and I absolutely love this palette, other than that gross Slippery shade, because that thing was nasty, nasty. I just dug it out and put a Sydney Gray shadow in there with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. Now, I wanted to show you guys up against the Mauve Obsessions. This is back when they did the cardboard packaging. This is so difficult to do with with this hand. So there they are. It's not, I mean, you're gonna have a few similarities in palettes, but I think the most similar is definitely the Naughty Nude palette. All right, here's the medium nude. And then this one is the rich nude on top. So I think you can really see just how much brown is in the brown Obsessions, even though this one does have a little bit of the little hints of mauve tones to it. Next up, Caramel Brown. This one I would actually compare to Warm Obsessions. I believe that was the name of it. That was one of the ones that I really did not like the formula of. So if you didn't like that formula and you took it back or gave it away, this would probably be a better option for you. I really love this fiery copper in the center, but to be honest, I don't use these shades as much as I used to, but overall I do think it's a good palette. Just again, keep in mind that with certain shades you will have to pack on just a little bit more if you want that intensity, but I feel like I got a pretty intense look. Now the one that I would say is the most iffy, and I don't have anything here other than maybe this one. I think this is the Coral. Yeah, Coral Obsessions. Like I said, I got rid of the Warm Obsessions. Here is what it looks like up against Coral. And I really think it's gonna look the most like Warm, but I really didn't like the Warm palette. I really didn't. Toffee is so pretty. This palette has its ups and downs though. This is the one that you're gonna have to work the hardest with. This shade right here that looks marbled, it's disappointing. Let me swatch it with my good hand. It's just like, and do you see how easily that wipes away? I'm used to those shades being very creamy, very luxe. So I was disappointed with that, and it was harder to get it onto my brush. So keep that in mind. This one right here is a little flaky. Again, if you pack it on the lid like I did, I think it looks beautiful. And at first I was a little iffy about the yellow, but I like the yellow. I like this look. I think it's warm, but it's like a honey pot warm. I don't know. There's something about it that I really like. But I have to tell you and be completely honest with you that this is one of the palettes that you're going to have to work with. So unless you really enjoy this color story and you don't already have these colors in your collection, this is one I would be iffy about, or wait for the sale with the Sephora sale maybe. Get 20% off of your rouge. But this one is the one that I would say I had to work with the most. The other two I'm not mad at. This one, matte's beautiful. The shimmers, just this one and this one. So this top one and this in the second row is just a little iffy for me. It's a little iffy. Anywho, I hope this was helpful for you all. Let me know if you guys enjoyed the looks or which one was your favorite, and I will see all of you in my next video. Bye guys.